guys, this is Stormouse03, and this is my Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings Dark Difficulty walkthrough. We're going to be continuing the prologue and the quest at the Fore, and meeting up with our first mini-boss of this area, Arian Lavalette. So let's get started here. So we've already taken out these guys here at the top after we broke through the barricade. I'm going to put Kin on and switch to Igni here in case I want to use it against these guys up here. These guys can be tricky. You really want to kind of get around your helper soldiers and just sort of run in there. You kind of want to make your way to the back here so that the guys don't get too many shots on you with their crossbows, because they can be pretty damaging there. And just use Kin to take a few hits. You can put it back on if you need to. And take those guys out. They can be kind of a pain if they start, like I said, using their crossbows on you. So you want to try to make sure that you run up to them so that they pull out their swords, and that makes that section a little bit easier. Down here you've got a couple more soldiers that are distracted by your men, so take them out. Pretty simple. And then you want to kind of move back here, wait for the red glow to go away, and then you can pick up whatever loot is left behind and let your health recharge and stuff for this next fight. There's going to be a little cutscene, and then you're going to head on in here. And this is kind of tricky because it's such a small little area here. But the way I like to handle this is, again, to just sort of use magic, kind of kite around the area, and you really don't want to let this big guy get the drop on you, because he can do a lot of damage, as you just saw. And since the area is so tiny, while you're focused on one guy, others can get in some cheap shots on you. So you want to just try to not get too trapped in there. Use your magic, use Kin if you need to, use bombs if you need to, but you should be able to get through that without too much difficulty if you're playing it a little bit safe and don't get, cornered and unlucky. So once you've looted the area, the big guy should drop something, usually, and then you just climb up these ladders when it lets you. The mechanics are sometimes a little bit finicky. I'm often swinging my sword instead of climbing or jumping down. So anyway, you'll have a little cutscene there, and then you should, at this point, have leveled up to level 2. And whenever you level up, you want to pretty much immediately start putting points into something. You have a couple of choices here. Dagger throwing is not all that important right now. I will be getting vigor regeneration at some point, but right now I'd like to have a little bit more health. So just because that'll just be probably the most helpful thing at this point in the game. So I'm going to put my point into that. And just make sure I've got my equipment the way that I want it. Make sure I've got everything still equipped. I don't know how my mage's trousers got unequipped, but I want to make sure to have them on because I am going to be using magic here. And then head up here. So you want to try to time yourself so you don't get hit by these arrows that these guys are firing. Put on Kin, kind of run through here in case a random one hits you, and then just try to be a little bit aggressive with these guys right here. Put on Kin again once you get hit, because they will be firing crossbows at you, and that is pretty damaging again. So I put Kin on again. I'm going to stand over here a little bit. And then I've got all those guys right there, and so I'm going to use one of my bombs to sort of soften them up. Put on Kin again, and then go in there and kill the rest of them. So that can be sort of tricky. I would recommend using one of your bombs right there. I use bombs kind of sparingly just because, you know, you might not have the ingredients to make a ton of them or whatnot, but in certain areas like that, it's better to go ahead and use one than to not. There's only a couple more soldiers up here. You can wait until your health is regenerated a little bit more, but sometimes my impatience gets the better of me. And I knew that there were only a few more enemies up this way, so I figured it'd be alright to keep pushing forward while my health is regaining a little bit. Once you make it to the top here, you're going to have a cutscene, and you're going to be facing the first quote-unquote mini-boss, I guess, of the area. His name is Aryan Lavalette, and there's a particular way that you want to handle this conversation with him. So there are 3 ways that this can go down. One way is that you fight him and his soldiers, which can be really unpleasant, especially on this difficulty. Another way is that you fight only him, and the third way is to get him to surrender. So you want the third option. So you want to choose the conversation trees that say surrender, don't be a fool, don't sacrifice your men's lives. So you want to say, drop your weapon, fool, here. Because what you're wanting to do is keep this guy alive. And that the reason for that is twofold. First of all, you want to be able to skip this fight because it, you know, is one, you know, more tricky fight in the game that you can skip. And that will help you out with the difficulty. But more importantly is if you keep him alive, you have an opportunity to get a perk a little bit later on. And so getting him to surrender is good because I really want to get that perk. So once they all surrender, everything's good. You don't have to do the fight, and you can carry on. That will kind of finish up this first section of the quest at the Fore, and you'll be moving on to a new section called To the Temple. Now I've sped up this because I'm going to be doing a lot of searching around in these buildings and looting stuff, and that's something that you definitely want to do because, as I said in the first part of this walkthrough, looting is really, really important. Like, you want to have as much stuff as you can possibly get because you're going to be needing all the money and all the crafting ingredients and stuff that you can sell in order to get yourself some better armor and weaponry a little bit later on here. So in one of these houses, I believe that it might be this one, there's a trapdoor, yep, right here. You can go down to this bottom section, and there's a little bit more stuff to loot down in this basement, and more stuff is good. So continuing, grabbing all the stuff that you can. It's sort of dark down here, but you know, just move around to all the corners, make sure you've gotten everything, and then keep going. There's a side quest in this area that we start right here called Woe to the Vanquished. You see that woman get murdered, and it has to do with some of the soldiers being not very nice to the townsfolk. And so what you want to do for this quest is make the soldiers leave them alone. So I always say the dragon's likely to come back and appeal to their sense of self-preservation. So that always works, and we'll get these guys to leave. And since I'm a nice person, I don't ever demand any payment or anything. I'm not sure if you'd get some from them, but I do know that once you finish this quest a little bit later on in the game, some people will come and give you a reward. So that's pretty nice. Once you get to this section right here, you're going to have to fight this captain. So you go, you tell him, you know, leave the people alone, I'm not going to let you hurt them, and then you have to fight the commander. And now you don't have to kill him, you just have to get his health down enough so that he will surrender to you. I'm getting hit a little bit here trying to put Ken on. You can actually put on Ken before the fight, and that will help you to not be distracted by trying to do it like I do. I'm going to use some magics here, and then he's going to surrender because we got his health down low enough. Be careful of the fire there. If you roll into it, that will damage you, and I have hurt myself before by doing that. They're going to leave, and then I'm going to continue looting houses and stuff. There is a particular house that you want to make sure that you go into down there, sort of down into the left of the campfire, and I'll point that out when we get there. But that will be the kind of final phase to this Woe to the Vanquished quest. It'll give you the final XP from that, and it will finish that up for you, because you want to make sure you finish that right now, because if you move on too far, you'll fail the quest. So here's the door right down here. You go in, the people are going to say, oh, thanks, and you can either demand payment or tell them to be careful, and like I said, they will reward you later on if you are nice. So that finishes up that little side quest, Woe to the Vanquished. You get some nice XP and can loot a little bit more and carry forward here. The thing that you want to make sure you do is do that before you go down the well a little bit later. Once you head down the well into the next area that you'll see here in just a minute, that will fail that quest if you haven't finished it. So just make sure you do that before you move on. And continuing to loot some houses. There are some soldiers down there. They are kind of distracted by your friendly soldiers, so you can head on down here and proceed to finish these guys off in whichever way you like. Generally, you can get them cornered by themselves, which is what you want to do. You want to focus on whichever one is closest to you and might actually be focusing on you, and let your friends kind of distract the rest of them. Take those guys out. Not too much of a problem, it shouldn't be. And continuing on, making sure you pick up everything and grabbing the last little bit of stuff from these houses. Sometimes I think the loot actually regenerates in these houses sometimes. I only make one pass through them just because trying to be as fast and efficient as possible. But if you happen to go back into one of the houses again, sometimes you'll have a little bit of extra stuff that you can pick up for a second time, which is kind of neat. It's not really necessary, though. You want to make sure that you loot as much as you can, but you're really only getting a couple of coins a piece, so it's not all that vital to get every single penny here. Continuing around, you can actually go into this door behind that group of people. Even though it seems like you might not. And then when you get down here, a little thing will play that sort of draws your attention to the wall behind that dead body. That's going to be the area that we're going to want to go to next after we finish looting this area. And it introduces you to a mechanic that you'll use a couple times during the game, where you have to use one of your signs to break through a wall. So we're going to do that now that we've gotten all the stuff. So we're going to put on our ARD sign, and that is the one that sort of is like a force push, and it will break through that barrier there. And then I'm going to put back on our Igni, come around here. These doors to both of these buildings here are locked. Most of the doors in this area right here are locked. And you'll have 3 enemies that are going to be around that corner. I'm kind of waiting here, hoping to draw them one at a time. And that works on this fellow right here. I'm able to corner him and take him out by himself. But then his 2 buddies arrived at the same time, so right now I'm kind of just trying to separate them a little bit, get them back away from the little hallway here, so that I can get back out into an area where I can have some more room to fight them. You don't really want to be trapped in that little area with more than one person. So again, kind of using a combination of magic, run around, wait for the magic to recharge. When you can get one by himself, go in for a hit or 2 and then roll away, and you should take those guys out with not too much issue. And then just loot the last little bits of stuff in this area. As I said, most of the doors are locked. That particular one is actually open, so you can grab a couple of things out of that room. And there will be some plants that you can grab, some herbs, and then we're going to head down this well. And so that's kind of the end of this little section. So I will see you guys in the next video to continue on with the rest of this prologue.